Hello and welcome to the movie podcast at TIFF. My name is Daniel and this is our review of Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Joining me today on this wonderful weird journey is Shahbaz.
Hello.
And Anthony.
Hello.
We just got out of Weird and we are recording this on the fly. Normally we are in the movie podcast studio. Normally we're having a great time in there, recording, looking great. We're all on camera, but we want to get these reviews out to you as soon as we can, but we also want to have good quality. So we're actually recording in our remote studio, also known as Shahbaz's car.
We recorded stuff in our car before, mostly video stuff before. So
mostly video.
This is the first where we're recording audio while we're parked in a garage in my car, which is not hot enough yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting a little warm, so it's a little toasty. So our takes by the end of this may be super hot.
Maybe hot takes.
Actually, not at all. Anthony, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about Weird Al.
This is technically, even though we've watched a few different TIFF movies already, this is our official first TIFF review that we're releasing. And this was one of the big festival opening films. Daniel Radcliffe and a huge cast of stars are in this one. We're going to tell you all about it soon. But as always, you could catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And really, it's like we're dropping new episodes every single day at this point because September is packed, D23 is happening, TIFF is happening, and there's so much more going on. So make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at The Movie Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/TheMoviePodcast. And let's keep this conversation going. After you listen to this review, after you listen to any episode of the Movie Podcast, head over to our Discord. Let's have some great conversations. We're having some great Rings of Power conversations, She-Hulk, House of the Dragon. There's lots going on in there, so make sure you tune in for all of that. But today is all about Weird, the Al Yankovic story. It's weird saying It's weird saying Al Yankovic without saying Weird Al. Especially
because the title of the film already has Weird and then Al Yankovic in it. But the only thing we're adding really is story.
Yeah, the weird. Oh my god, I want to say the Weird Al Yankovic story. The Al Yankovic story.
Right.
Of course, this is all part of our TIFF coverage. This, like I said, this is one of the big TIFF films this year, and this film is directed by Appel. This film is full of cameos. You're going to have a wonderful time with it. And it's going to be actually streaming globally on the Roku Channel on November 4th. And it opened here at TIFF on September 8th. So just last night, part of Midnight Madness, which this is the perfect film to watch with the crowd. So I'm really curious to see if it's going to be getting any theatrical releases.
Oh, I hope so.
Now, of course, the film is a very true account of Weird Al from his meteoric rise from a humble accordion player who replaced lyrics of popular songs with funny new ones to a rich and famous celebrity accordion player who continued to replace the lyrics of popular songs with funny new ones. So it's very this film, I think, is just a brilliantly done way of looking at the life of Weird Al, who, of course, everyone knows who Weird Al is. Everyone's heard a Weird Al song. So it just, I think when you're adapting a story of him, I don't think you could just do a normal biopic. You have to do it the Weird Al way. And of course, with Appel, Weird Al Yankovic also wrote this film. Now, normally I would get a synopsis to be read by one of you, and we'll figure out who's doing synopsis, who's hosting, who's doing first reaction. I didn't think about it until right this very moment.
I was going to say, when we hit record, I was like, shit.
Yeah, who's doing the synopsis? So I gave you a little breakdown of what it's all about. This movie's about Weird Al. It stars Daniel Radcliffe, Evan Rachel Wood, Rainn Wilson, Toby Huss, Arturo Castro, and Julianne Nicholson, as I said, with a bunch of cameos that we will not spoil in this review.
No.
But I'm going to kick it over to Shay to give our first reaction. Then I'm going to kick it over to Anthony to give his first reaction right after that.
Second reaction. Man, look, Weird Al is one of those characters and one of those people that, especially in the early days of the internet, really anywhere you'd go, you'd catch one of his songs. Like, I can think of downloading legal music off of LimeWire or Kazaa, and he would end up with like a Weird Al song.
Yeah, always.
So that was some of the best parts of my introduction to Weird Al. Now, getting in this movie, I didn't know enough about his life and I'm walking out of this movie still not knowing enough about his life, and that's the best part about it, because Weird Al's mystery is what makes him so interesting, and his comedy and where he kind of goes. This movie is hilarious. It's so much fun. Daniel Radcliffe absolutely kills it. I think the cameos are so over the top, but they make so much sense, because everybody that kind of shows up is like, yes, I get why you're in this. Yes, I get why you're in this. And where this movie kind of goes is even better. It takes it to places where I didn't expect a movie to be, or a biopic. You know, I'm using air quotes right now to kind of go, but I had so much fun. This movie is hilarious. It's up there with the comedies that The Lonely Island has made. I look at, Pop Star, for example, which is also a faux documentary biopic. This movie emulates a lot of that, but it takes it to places where I think classic comedy really goes. And I think that's what made Weird Al so special, is that it's sometimes on the nose, but it's perfect the way it does it.
Great. And I think when you think of people like The Lonely Island, you think of people like Tenacious D, you think of people who are making funny videos on the internet. Weird Al was the genesis of a lot of that for a lot of people, right? Like, Weird Al was the person who was making parodies, who was making comedy albums, and inspired that generation of artists to come. Right? And I think this movie, what it does so well is that it treats the absurdity with seriousness.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Anthony, jump on in.
My history with Weird Al has been, growing up, much music videos were like my staple. I would go to them and watch them, and that's where I was introduced to Weird Al. And I would watch his stuff and be like, man, he's changing the game. He's like, comedy meets music. That's so interesting and so unique, because no one was doing it at that time. And as you can see now, like Pop Star, or even any type of
Walk Hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy in music, and we see a lot of inspiration even with Eminem's music and how
Little Dicky.
Yeah, and it's just, he kind of spearheaded this movement, and it was so nice to see that this movie kind of played a part of that movement, in the sense that it was its own parody. Going into it, I didn't expect the movie to go the way it did. It was very weird, and it fits the criteria of Weird Al. And just having Madonna, and she's kind of like the villain of this movie. And the trailer doesn't do it justice, because the trailer does give you weird moments, but you're still a little bit of, okay, this is a biopic. This is not a biopic. This is like an experience of Weird Al, and I think it just fits the whole aesthetic of him. And I think Daniel Radcliffe did a fantastic job.
Oh my god! Talk about him.
There is moments in here where he just kills it. He does a great job of playing the accordion, to like just the mannerisms, and just being a comedic force for this movie, because I think you need that. You need someone who can really deal with the Weird Al comedy and like make it happen, and he did a fantastic job. Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna, like Madonna from that early period, that 80s Madonna,
Lucky Star Madonna.
Yes, she did a fantastic job. Everyone, the cameos, everything was good. Another weird part of this movie is it's a Roku film, and it's just, that's surprising. Like, this is their first film, and they hit it out of the park. It's going to be interesting how people watch this movie, because it's going to, it's a Roku original,
streaming November 4th for free on the Roku Channel.
But they took what they got and they made something out of it, and I think they did a fantastic job.
It's like just to speaking to Roku for a second, like this film has incredible production value.
Yeah,
and I think when you're looking at the era that this movie takes place in, it's not cheap to make a period piece, right? And this film, I think, just nails it, and it goes to the performances of everyone in it. Rainn Wilson is phenomenal in this movie. He's just so fun to watch. He's not in it too much, but he's in it enough that like he leaves a mark. He leaves a present. He's fun. But again, going back to Daniel Radcliffe, like he is so unique in the roles that he chooses.
Oh my god!
Like when you look at like an actor like him who's obviously one of the most well-known faces in the world. You're in one of the most beloved, series in the whole world with Harry Potter, and he just comes in and owns it, and he's like, let me play roles that people will not expect of me.
Right.
And I think Eric Appel's directing in this is just so crystallized in the sense of just like, let me take what works with Weird Al. Why do people love Weird Al? It's because he takes things that are familiar and makes them his own.
Right.
And this movie does that. Like you'll see a lot of inspirations from movies like, Walk Hard, or even Walk the Line, Boogie Nights, Pop Star. This movie is in the vein of all of those, but it's not that. Like, we were there, and Eric came out at the end of our screening. He was talking about how, Bohemian Rhapsody had just come out. This film is based on the trailer that he made with Weird Al like 10 years ago that they would show at Al shows and stuff like that and play online. But it's so cool that they took what and what you're used to seeing in like a film biopic, and they're like, no, let's have fun with this, because this wouldn't be paying respect to who Weird Al is if it was just a straight up biopic. He's going to be fighting the cartel in this. He's going to be doing things that Weird Al hopefully never did in real life. What Al never did in real life.
I mean, I hope
you hope so.
I hope this
was 100% factual biopic.
And I think that's like one of the best parts about it. And like, I kind of want to go back to Daniel Radcliffe for a second here, because man, he pivoted his career in the best possible way. He took it and said, look, I can do the movies that everybody expects me to do, or I can make the weirdest films and make my own cult following.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And this movie is literally a Weird Al song personified into film. It takes so many great turns. It has so many great gags, so many great jokes. Sometimes you'll even expect the joke coming, but when it lands so perfectly that you're like, fuck, yes, that's how I wanted the joke to be.
Yeah, and they take the jokes. I think they know when to end the jokes. Where It's like, again, like I said, they treat the absurd with seriousness, which I think they do so well in this film. It can feel, I think, in the middle, like a lot of biopics, it could feel a little long.
Right.
But again, the movie knows, I think, when it's starting to get long, and like, no, let's flip this. Let's get out of this in a funny way.
Right.
To keep you not feeling, the pace of this film, then locked down in it. I'm just so happy. Like this is a film that I hope that it gets theatrical, like some type of theatrical release, because this is a fun one to watch with an audience.
Oh my God.
We were laughing out loud. I was cackling the whole time. It was a
I heard
great
Anthony
time.
laugh too.
Anthony was laughing too.
I did laugh a couple of times. Yes, it was weird. I had to like stop.
I immediately called the cops. I was like, I hear laughter.
We got a laughter. Yeah, a lot of fun. So, do we have any final thoughts on Weird, the Al Yankovic Story?
This is the weirdest movie you'll ever see, and that is the best way I can say it.
I think so. So we're not giving final recommendations. Sorry, Anthony, did you have something to add?
No, I'm going to say it was just an unexpected journey that I really enjoyed.
Excellent. So we're not giving final recommendations because these are not films during TIFF that you could really go out and watch unless you have a ticket for at the Toronto International Film Festival. Like we said, this film is going to be releasing on the Roku Channel on November 4th. You'll be able to watch it there around the world, US and Canada for sure, November 4th. And hopefully down the road, we'll be talking a lot more about this movie at the end of the year, because this one really surprised me. It's absolutely hysterical. Mm-hmm. And I think you are all going to have a wonderful, wonderful time with it.
The movie is also, if you're familiar with Funny or Die, it's produced by them as well. So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into.
Definitely. Exactly that. Thank you so much for listening to the Movie Podcast review of Weird, the Al Yankovic Story. Like I said, this is going to be releasing on the Roku Channel on November 4th, and it is playing during TIFF this week, so if you are able to get a ticket for it, definitely make time for it, because you will not want to miss it. Easily one of the funniest movies of the year. As always, you can catch many new episodes of the Movie Podcast this week, next week, all of September. We're catching up with everything TIFF, D23, and everything in between. So look forward to all of that. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at The Movie Podcast. You'll be able to follow all of our coverage there as well. Check out all of our interviews from the Rings of Power series. We have lots of incredible interviews and episodes waiting for you. If this is the first time you're listening to our show, hello and welcome. We love that you're here, and we hope that you stick around. That was This Time with The Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.